This tutorial is going to walk through how to set up Swaptify on your WordPress website. So I've loaded some demo content into a very basic WordPress setup running the Elementor plugin as the page builder. You don't need to use Elementor as the page builder. In fact, Swaptify will work with pretty much any page builder that you might be using, including Gutenberg blocks, as long as you can generate content and then install content via a shortcode, which I can't think of a page builder that doesn't allow you to process shortcodes. It's pretty fundamental to WordPress. So our page builder within Swaptify will generate a shortcode that you can then put into your content. But I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. First, we're just going to get things set up. So getting set up with Swaptify is going to require two steps: adding the plugin and then registering on Swaptify. So either you came here from Swaptify or you came here from the WordPress plugin store. Either way, you'll need to do the other things. So I'm going to get started by installing the Swaptify plugin on the WordPress side, and then I'm going to go through the registration and email confirmation process, and then I'll just do a little cut here and meet you on the other side. Okay, so now that I'm in the back end of Swaptify and I have installed the Swaptify plugin onto the WordPress side, we can start configuring things and then get the two components connected. So on the Swaptify side, you're going to want to go into your profile and then set up a new property. Yours will be blank, so you'll hit create new, and then you'll go through this. Now I'll briefly walk you through what these selections are. So here's my pet store demo, which I've already made. When you go to set this up, you'll give it a name. This is just for internal use. You'll identify the domain, again, just for internal use, just for reference. They're not functional. You can set what your default session expiration time is. If you want your data to match up to Google Analytics as much as possible, you'll want to make these match. So Google Analytics default session expiration time is 30 minutes. That's what we start at. That's what we would recommend. We do things a little bit differently from Google Analytics in terms of expiring a session as it relates to conversions. The reason for that is when we have a conversion event logged, we want to attribute that conversion to all of the content that was seen leading up to that conversion. And so ending the session at the moment that a conversion happens allows us to look backwards at all the content that led up to it so that we can attribute all of the content in the lead up to that conversion to that conversion. This is something that Google Analytics can't do because it doesn't reset the reset the session every time a conversion happens. But because Swaptify's data model is built so strongly around content analysis, that's how we have to do it. So you're just going to want to remind yourself of that when you're cross-comparing your data sets between Swaptify and Google Analytics, that Swaptify thinks about sessions a little bit differently. This one here, no rule setting. Now what this means is when Swaptify encounters a segment of your website where swaps are enabled. So swaps are just cycling content, different versions of content that can be shown. When it doesn't identify that you want to show a particular piece of content, so it doesn't identify that content has matched a visitor type, and it doesn't identify a rule that has been triggered, but there are still multiple swaps available to pick from. You can tell it to show something random across your whole account, or you can tell it to show your default swap, which you create when you will be generating each of your content pieces within each segment. One is always set to default. So why you would use either of them. So you would use the default if you're not as interested in testing the effectiveness of content. So if you're using Swaptify to test content and you're really not setting up a lot of rules, you're not setting up visitor types, you're just doing content analysis, kind of like an A/B test, but on a much bigger scale with instead of just changing one page at a time or one piece of content at a time, you can create all the swaps on a page you want, let them all swap randomly, and then look into your content analysis report, your influential swaps report, and determine which of your swaps are having the most influence on conversions. So it's kind of like a sped up way to get at A B testing. It uses the same mechanism as A B testing, but because of the way that it serves the content, it winds up being a lot faster to analyze this way. And a little more accurate because it's using a statistical model rather than an experimental model. So it's faster and a little bit more trustworthy. Um, and then, so that would be why you would choose one of these. In terms of filtering out unverified data, this is another thing that would have to do with getting your data to match Google Analytics. So as we were doing our own testing and trying to compare data between Swaptify and GA4, we noticed that GA4 was identifying more conversions than Swaptify was. So Swaptify uses a browser validation software that seems to do a better job of identifying and excluding bots and spam than Google Analytics does. Even with the Google Analytics option on that says, exclude known bots and spiders, we found that when we are using our filter, we show less conversions. And when we, unpacked them and looked into Google Analytics, it turned out that Swaptify was the more accurate version of which of those conversions were real versus junk or spam. So with this setting being on, this will be another reason that you would see differences potentially in your Swaptify data versus your Google Analytics data. If you turn this filter off, you're probably going to see, at least in our experience, it was that turning this filter off made it so that our conversion data more closely matched Google Analytics. So you can experiment with that. We default it to on because we think it provides a more true data set. But again, that's up to you. So now that you have your details on your property decided, you can save that. And now we're going to use the API key to connect Swaptify to your WordPress site. So over on the WordPress site, you're going to want to go onto your Swaptify plugin and then 2 tabs down, the configuration tab. You're going to be looking for your Swaptify API access token. There's a link that you can click to here to get at it. Just make sure that you're on the right property. So here's this one. Here's the access token. I'm going to copy and paste it. And make sure that we pick our property here, turning it on, and now we're connected. After you have pasted in your access token and saved your changes, you can test to make sure that you're connected to Swaptify by visiting your site and then going into the Swaptify website and looking at your visitor report. So I'm on my pet store property, my visitor report, and I can see now that I've logged a couple page views in one session. So that's showing me that we're connected. So that's going to do it for this section of the video, and I'll see you on the next video for setting up visitor types.